everybody, Vivian here with a tutorial for Paper House magazine. I have a card project to share with you today, but the tutorial part focuses on altering papers. I've been playing around a lot with Coordinations Colorcore cardstock, and I used it in conjunction with some media today to create this really funky bloom. Today's project will use the Colorcore cardstock from Coordinations, and media from Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft, fibers from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and some dimensional crystal from Art Anthology, and those canvas butterflies are from Little Yellow Bicycle. So let's get to the tutorial. So there are several very, very easy ways to alter Coordinations Colorcore cardstock to add texture to your projects. You can sand it, emboss it, rip it. It's Colorcore. Sometimes you can get it with craft core. There's a whole variety that they offer. Here, I've been playing around with them a lot recently. I discovered something brand new. I haven't seen it before. I wrinkled it up, as you can see here, and sanded the top layer. But as you'll see later in the tutorial, there's another additional step that adds a whole nother element of texture to projects with the Colorcore cardstock. So this is a little mini iron from Clover. You want to heat that up. I picked this up at my local craft store. And I'm going to use that in conjunction with Papercrafter crayons from Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft. They come in a whole assortment of colors. Reds and yellows is in one pack that includes oranges, and blues and greens in another pack, and that includes purples. And then there's a neutral set with blacks and silvers and whites and browns. So I crushed up my piece of Colorcore cardstock. I flattened it out and sanded off the top ridges for a really nice distress, just as is. But here's the extra step. We melt the Papercrafter crayons on that little mini iron and then rub it into the surface of the paper. If you rub lightly, you get some thick deposits along the ridges. If you press really hard, it disperses that pigment quite a bit. And the pigment is waxy, so it adds a level of sheen to your project that's a little bit different than the sheen you get from shimmer mists and that type of stuff. You can wrinkle it again to create a whole new set of ridges and go over it with different colors. I did this with blue and white Papercrafter crayons on this piece, and I just love the grungy, distressed look that results. It's very natural looking because of the way we just spontaneously crushed up those papers. I did this with a couple of other sheets just because I had all of my supplies out and I know I'm going to be using this later. But because we are really pressing that hot iron into the paper, we're actually transforming the paper through its entire thickness. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So here are a couple of other samples. I also altered a purple piece just by wrinkling it and sanding away the top layer. So I'm going to take this piece, and I have this Martha Stewart ornament paper punch. So typically that's used for the holidays. But I just love that teardrop shape, and I think it's very versatile. I've been using it in a number of projects to create different forms and effects and use them to represent different things in different projects. If you're interested in the other things that I've done with this particular paper punch and this paper altering technique, you can visit me on my channel, and that's Vivian Keh on YouTube. So I'm interested in creating as much variegation in each petal as possible. We've got the texture of the colorcore cardstock. We've got the addition of the waxy Papercrafter crayons on the ridges. And I also sanded away some areas for that extra dose of distress. And this part I call getting intimate with my papers. At first I thought I was going to create a convex petal, but I changed my mind and made a concave petal by treating it with a scoring tool, as you just saw. And I distressed the edges of my background paper with a purple shade of Tim Holtz Distress ink, as well as some black soot Distress ink. And this is where the altering of our papers gets really fun and interesting. So from heating through using the mini iron and really pressing it into the surface of the paper, it caused the different layers of the colorcore cardstock it teased them apart. And after I punched them, some of them were really asking to be separated to create just a double, triple dose of frill in the blooms. And some of them wanted to be pulled into 2 layers. Some of them wanted to be pulled into 3 layers. Some of them just wanted to stay 1 layer. And so I just went with it. This type of cardstock has a core that's a lighter shade of pink than the surface. And see how the Papercrafter crayon sort of carried through all of the layers in certain parts because of the way we abused the paper. I just love that. And then this piece just wanted to stay intact. So here's a tip for when you are working with papers in this way and wrinkling them and abusing them. You can put the paper between your palms and the edge of a table and just knead it out as you see I'm doing here to flatten it out. And by doing this, it flattens it out nicely, well enough so that it will adhere well to your card base. At this point, I decided to add some fibers because this project is very distressed and somewhat grungy. When I do projects like this, I always like to include something that's rather light and clean as well for some contrast. So I wrapped my card front with this beautiful baby pink satin, and the white seam binding is wet and scrunched. And do you see how this metallic iridescent string is warping and the ends are fraying in this really funky, fun way? I've been setting my heat tool on a lot of my synthetic fibers, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So this seam binding burned a little bit as it dried, and I actually really like that too. I much prefer these ragged ends to a clean cut edge. So now begins the business of creating our very funky, heavily frilled bloom. I ended up arranging the initial center of the bloom in a triangle shape and just putting a tiny, tiny bit of hot glue on the very interior tip. And then just adding in petal by petal all the way until the end, moving from the inside outward. I did the same thing with the metallic iridescent string for the stamens of my bloom, and then adhered an embellishment from Recollections for the center of my flower. And I just love how all of those woven fibers just fray that way, so I did it a little bit more here. So you have to excuse my Cocker Spaniel's being very goofy right now. You probably can hear him groaning in the background. So I have this, some canvas sticky backed shapes that I got. They're from Little Yellow Bicycle. And I'm just going over the top with some gelatos in coordinating colors. I spritz it with a little bit of water, and actually with a paper towel you can pick up some of that pigment as well. I did 2 butterflies to create some movement along my little mini canvas card. And then as a final touch, I used some of this dimensional crystal in Bluebird from Anthology to create just a little bit more pop. So I added some little pearl shapes on the butterflies. And I also created some straight lines. So because I actually screwed up the butterfly at the top of my card by brushing my finger against the dimensional crystal, I did it again intentionally on my bottom butterfly to make it look like I had done it on purpose. I really like the tip on this bottle and the way it dispenses the pearl shapes. And once that was on, I set that aside to dry. It takes a little while to dry. So here's a full shot of the final card. I was very pleased with the results, and I think you could use this paper crafting technique to create a lot of fun, grungy, distressed looks in a whole variety of paper crafting projects. Here's the butterfly I messed up on, and here's the second butterfly I intentionally messed up on so I could make it look intentional. Here are those frayed fibers, and here's that big dose of extra texture by incorporating a lot of different ribbons. And here's the final card. So thanks so much for watching. If you haven't yet, well, you probably came here from the Paper House website, but we offer inspiration every day. We have a very talented team of designers that work hard to share inspirations with you every day, so I hope you'll stop by the Paper House website regularly to see what we have to share with you. I also have a blog. It's www.contadinakeh.com, and I've got a whole bunch of my own inspirations there to share with you, so I hope you'll stop by. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, it's Contadina Keh. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.